What's going on, you guys? Riley here. Today we are reviewing this 2017 Alfa Romeo Giulia Quadrifoglio. That's a quite a long name, but this is Alfa Romeo's attempt at making a luxury, sporty four-door sedan, and it comes in with a nice 505 horsepower. Now, I'll be honest with you guys, I have always loved these cars. Maybe it's because my fiance's name is Julia and the car's name is Julia, haha, but I've always thought these things were pretty cool. But with that being said, they're up against some pretty tough competition when you talk about four-door sedans that are sporty and fun and fast and all that good stuff in the, $80,000 to $100,000 price range. Brand new price range, that is. But we'll talk more about the competition a little bit later. Just wanted to give you guys a quick exterior walk around, starting with the front. The Giulias have never been the most aggressive looking car, but they do look, I guess, very unique and quite elegant, I guess. Just very alpha, it's you see one of these, you're like, yep, that's a Alfa Romeo. Now, one of the interesting things about these cars that I've read a lot of negative reviews about is that their braking system is a brake-by-wire. So it's basically not the best. I'll talk more about it a little bit later, but you do get some nice 6-piston Brembo brake calipers. Well, actually, they don't say Brembo anywhere on them, but they look almost identical to the 6-piston Brembos on the Hellcats. So maybe they're doing a little parts bin sharing there with the Hellcat, since they are kind of an FCA product with, Alfa Romeo, Fiat, Dodge, etc. Could be totally wrong on that, but that's just my guess. Overall, very nice lines. I mean, it's just kind of an elegant looking car, really. And then the rear brakes are 4-piston Brembos, and I believe these are 10.5-inch wide wheels sitting on some 285 with Michelin Pilot Super Sports. So definitely got some good traction, and from what I hear, these are some of the best handling sedans on the market. Now, before we get any farther, just wanted to give a huge shout out to Parkway Chevrolet in Tomball, Texas, where I now officially work. So if you guys are interested in any used car on Parkway Chevrolet's lot, come see your boy RP. If you're interested in a new Chevy, come see your boy RP. I'll take care of you guys. More on that in a totally different video, but just wanted to announce that I'm now working at Parkway Chevy, so if you're interested in anything, let me know. Moving on to the rear of the Giulia, you get some nice quad exhaust tips with a pretty aggressive rear diffuser back there. I think that's pretty darn cool how they integrated all those little fins and kind of makes it look, just a little bit more sporty than a typical four-door sedan. A nice little carbon fiber spoiler there on the trunk lid, and of course the Alfa Romeo badge there in the middle. Taking a look at the key now, it's kind of bulky, honestly. It's a very interesting design. It's not the most high-end, to be honest with you, but you do get remote start, and then you press this button twice, and there you go. The trunk opens. Actually, it's a pretty darn big trunk. It's pretty similar to a Charger, honestly. It's pretty similar in size there. Even the way the trunk opens with these weirdly shaped little arms, I mean, that's very Charger-ish. So it's kind of like a fancy Charger if you really want to think about it that way, except it has a twin turbo V6 that is very similar to a Ferrari 458 motor, just the back two cylinders chopped off of it. So speaking of that engine, this is a 2.9 liter twin turbo V6. It produces 505 horsepower and 443 pound-feet of torque. And if I remember correctly, when this car was first revealed and first, brought to production, it was the fastest sedan around the Nürburgring. So these things handle very well, they're quick, and supposedly they're very fun. So we will have to find out for ourselves. But if I also remember correctly, it's very, very similar to a Ferrari 458 motor. So I'm interested to see how it sounds. I've just kind of drove it slow over here. So you guys are going to get a true first impression reaction to this thing. Obviously, it doesn't have 8 cylinders like a Ferrari, but kind of same, or I don't want to say same, but very similar engineering and like overall components and stuff like that. But as you might notice here, you get a carbon fiber hood, so it's definitely an interesting car. Very sporty, very elegant, and just an overall pretty good looking car from the exterior. All right, so moving on to the interior of the Giulia. So of course, for $70 whatever thousand, you'd hope it'd have keyless entry. It does. Now here is the interior. So like I said, it's got some pretty tough competition, so you would hope it'd be pretty nice, which for the most part it is. Starting off with the steering wheel, one of my all-time favorite steering wheels on any car, especially since the start-stop button is located on the steering wheel, so that's always a nice little touch. But it's a mix of Alcantara, a little bit of leather, and some carbon fiber, so it's just a nice mix of all the good materials you'd want in a car. And really that same theme is kind of continued throughout. It's all leather, Alcantara, and carbon fiber. Check out these seats, and if I show you guys the back of these seats, probably some of the coolest seats I've ever seen. It's just all carbon fiber, and I mean, dang, that looks out of place in a sedan, but I'll take it. Backseat room is honestly pretty good. Like I said earlier, it's very, very similar to a Charger on the inside. It's just a more fancy version of a Charger, to be quite honest with you. You also get a nice Harman Kardon audio system, which is always a nice benefit in your daily driver. But yeah, I mean, overall, it's a pretty nice interior. This kind of looks like a BMW, to be honest with you, and definitely looks like a BMW on the gear shifter as well. And it's just like a mix of a lot of strange vehicles. It's like part Hellcat, part Charger, part BMW, part base model Alfa. It's a weird blend. But anyways, let's go ahead and hit the start stop button and fire this thing up. Kind of anticlimactic. Overall, a pretty standard gauge cluster, nothing too fancy there. It does go up to 200 miles per hour on the speedometer, which is always nice. You have a different mode selector right here, which is Alfa's DNA setting. Totally forgot what they all mean, so we're just gonna go with all right, neutral, and this the one you want, because, well, yeah, self-explanatory. As I said earlier, the navigation screen's a little strange, and honestly, to me, it's not worthy of being inside of like a $80,000 car. This to me seems like more of a base model. I don't know, I just don't really care for it. The navigation screen looks like something out of a TomTom from 2005. You can go in here and hit on the car settings and let's see, car status. You can check on the maintenance and tire pressures, and that's kind of interesting. Definitely one of those things that's a little bit scary about owning an Alfa would be worrying about maintenance and reliability, because they haven't been known to be I guess the most reliable. We'll touch on that a little bit more a little bit later, but yeah, I mean, just always have a menu button there to take you back to the main menu, and it's a pretty self-explanatory system. Overall, not my favorite. I'd probably give it like a 5 out of 10. It's just kind of average, but everything else in the interior is really nice. I like the carbon fiber, I like the leather, I like the red accents and the red stitching, and like I said, these seats, super cool. Seeing some carbon fiber seats that look like they should be out of like a Porsche or something inside of a 4-door sedan. All right, you guys, well, let's go ahead and take the Alfa out for a little drive. So I'm pretty excited for this review. I've heard a lot of good things about this car, and I've heard a lot of bad things about this car. So I'm anxious to see what my impressions are going to be. It's a interesting car, really. All right, so we're gonna start this review off in the neutral setting, and then we'll go to this is the one you want. But overall, first impressions. So visibility, very good. The overall just feel of the car, it just kind of feels like a ATS-V and maybe a little bit of a Charger. But honestly, I would say the closest car I've driven to this in terms of just the overall way it drives, initial impressions, would be an ATS-V. And that's a good thing. I love the ATS-V. Now, I will say that I completely agree with just about every other reviewer out there that these brakes, or at least the brake feel, is terrible. I do not like it at all. Whatever the brake-by-wire system is, should just not have been introduced, and they should have just left it alone and used a normal braking system that everybody else uses. If I sit here and get on the brakes right now, I mean, it just doesn't feel like there's... What was that? That sounded like a supercharged Jeep from like 1980. Okay. But there's just no brake feel to it. You have to like really start to get on it. Like, I'm on the brakes and they just don't bite that well. Like they should. They're massive brakes, massive calipers, massive rotors. They just don't have much feel to them. And earlier I was driving in a parking lot and I was just trying to be easy, and it's very hard to do that. It's very just jerky, and it just does not feel right. So I would say immediately that's kind of a huge turnoff. But if you could just ignore the braking or just get used to it and deal with it, aside from that, it's a really nice car. Like I said earlier, when this car first came out, it set the fastest sedan time around the Nürburgring. And, you know, that's incredible to be the fastest 4-door sedan around anything. Better yet, the Nürburgring. We're just gonna take a nice little left here and see what all this power is about. Floored. It's quick, but it doesn't feel quick. give the paddle shifters a quick little shot here. So third, second, well, it sounds decent. Feels a lot faster when you shift it yourself. That's pretty quick. It's a weird experience. Like, it's just very quiet and just kind of does what you want it to, but just without any fuss. It just is like, all right, we'll go fast now. Starting from a low speed, there's some turbo lag, but man, as soon as you get into the power band, it moves pretty good. I've always liked cars like this because I call them silent killers. Like, you would never suspect this car to be that fast. It's quiet. You see it pull up to a red light, you're like, oh, what's that fancy little European car? You put your foot down and this thing goes. And it's just very interesting in the way that it delivers that to a driver's experience. Sitting here in these seats, they're decently comfortable, kind of stiff, actually very good bolstering, but my lower back, it almost feels like there's a heater on my lower back. Just the way this suede is, it just collects a lot of heat there, and I just feel hot sitting here. And the seat heater is not on or anything like that. It just, I don't know, they're not the most comfortable in my back. My bottom is fine, upper back's fine, but lower back is just like really, really sweaty right now. I guess there's just nowhere for it to breathe. The bolsters are kind of hugging me in tight, and I don't know, just something I've noticed. Let's test out the brakes one last time. So we're on it, we're gonna brake. You have to push really, really hard on that brake pedal. And there's no initial bite to it. It's just weird. And like, I go slow, and I don't know. It's just not normal. I would say overall, there's nothing that this car does that is just mind-blowing fantastic. It does a lot of things very good, but it's just not, I don't know, it doesn't do it for me. Now, I don't want you guys to think that this car is just terrible, because it's not, and I don't want it to be all bad. Handling, really, really good. Like, probably one of the best handling sedans out there. That's kind of why earlier I said it gave me the ATS-V vibe. It still does in the handling department. Like, it feels like you're on almost like a 6th gen Camaro chassis. Like, it handles very good, very, very flat, very responsive, and just kind of easy to kind of dart around in. The steering feel also good. Still one of the coolest steering wheels that I've ever, sat behind. I really like the steering wheel. If I could just take this thing off and put it in my car, that'd be awesome. Suspension, also very good, very comfortable, like in terms of just the ride quality. It's actually really, really fast. 500 horsepower nowadays doesn't seem like a whole bunch, but it's pretty quick. I've never been one to say twin turbo V6s are amazing, I've just never had a thing for them, but I have come to my senses within recent time, and they're pretty good now. Visibility is pretty good in this thing. The front windows are kind of like squished. Like, I don't know, I feel like they could be longer, and there's like a ton of headroom above me. Like, it's just a very high ceiling, but overall, I mean, it is a good car. Good. Now, if everything I said was useless to you and you still absolutely love this car, you've always wanted one, maybe you've driven one before and you fell in love with it and you're interested in buying one, like I said, this car is available for sale at Parkway Chevrolet. Perhaps you are not interested in this car and you want to look at something else. I know we have like a Z01 1LE traded in right now, a Z06 Corvette, a Grand Sport Corvette. We got a whole bunch of like cool performance cars that get traded in. And then also, if you're interested in a new Chevy, hit your boy up. He'll take care of you. I'll talk all about this in a completely separate video, but just wanted to get it out there that I am working there now. Hopefully this video gave you guys some insight on how the Giulia is overall to drive and how the features are and all that good stuff. I've always wanted to drive one of these things, but I just know how the competition is, and I know that the competition is making some very, very good cars. So yeah. So thank you guys for watching this video. If there's anything I can do for you in terms of a new or used car, be sure to let me know. But yeah, thank you guys for watching. I'll see you all in the next one. Take it easy.